The snow was falling hard the night Dominic Moretti returned. 7 years. 7 years since he signed divorce papers with hands that didn't shake, since he walked out of a tiny apartment with nothing but his tailored coat and his pride. 7 years since he chose blood over love, power over mercy, the mafia over the woman who once slept beside him with her hand on his chest, listening to his heartbeat like it mattered. The driver slowed the black sedan as they reached the old neighborhood. "Stop here," Dominic said. The car came to a halt under a flickering streetlight. Christmas lights blinked unevenly on nearby houses, cheap decorations, mismatched colors, wires taped together. The kind of place men like Dominic Moretti no longer belonged. He stepped out into the cold. The house was smaller than he remembered. Paint peeling, roof sagging slightly. But there was light inside. Warm, golden. A Christmas tree stood near the window, crooked but glowing. And then Dominic saw something that made his chest tighten in a way bullets never had. A tiny pair of shoes by the front door. Children's shoes. His breath caught. "That's not possible," he muttered. Dominic Moretti didn't believe in coincidence. He believed in cause and consequence. And 7 years ago, when he left Elena Russo, she'd sworn through tears that she'd rather starve than ever ask him for help. He believed she was alone. He was wrong. From inside the house came a sound that froze him in place. A baby's cry. Not loud. Not dramatic. Soft. Tired. The kind of cry that came from hunger or sickness, or a child who had learned that crying too hard didn't bring anyone faster. Dominic's vision darkened at the edges. The dawn of the Moretti syndicate, feared by politicians, judges, rival families, felt something unfamiliar claw up his spine. Fear. He stepped closer to the window. Inside, Elena moved quickly, nervously, rocking a bundled infant in her arms. She looked thinner, older. Her once bright eyes were shadowed, exhausted. She whispered to the baby, kissing its forehead, murmuring apologies through clenched teeth. "I know, my love. Mama's here. Mama's here." The baby cried harder. Dominic's jaw tightened. 7 years ago, he'd been told Elena couldn't have children. Doctors. Tests. Cold hospital rooms. It had been one of the many excuses he'd used to justify leaving. And now, the door suddenly opened. Cold air rushed in. Elena stepped outside, wrapping her coat tighter around the baby as if the heat inside hadn't been enough. She didn't see him at first. She was focused on the sky, on the snow, on anything that might save her child. "Please," she whispered to no one. "Just let him breathe through the night." Then she looked up. Their eyes met. Time stopped. Elena froze like she'd seen a ghost. Dominic Moretti, dressed in black, broad-shouldered, dangerous, unmistakable, stood in her yard like a shadow from a past she'd buried alive. Her face drained of color. "You," she said hoarsely. The baby whimpered again, its tiny fist curling weakly against her chest. Dominic took one step forward. "What's wrong with the child?" he asked. Elena backed away instinctively. "You don't get to ask that," she said. "You gave up that right 7 years ago." Dominic's eyes dropped to the baby. Dark hair. His eyes. And in that moment, the most powerful mafia boss in the city realized something that made his blood run cold. Whatever this child was suffering from, whatever Elena had endured alone, This was his war now. And Christmas Eve was about to turn into a reckoning no one would survive unchanged. If you love Mafia stories where fate strikes back harder than bullets, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because what Dominic discovers next will change everything. Dominic didn't wait for permission. He stepped inside the house. The warmth hit him first. Cheap heater, overworked, humming like it might give up any second. Then the smell. Medicine. Old soup. Fear. Elena slammed the door shut behind him. "Get out," she said, her voice shaking. "You don't belong here." Dominic didn't move. His eyes were locked on the baby. Too small. That was the first thing he noticed. Not newborn small, sick small. The baby's cheeks were sunken, his breathing shallow and uneven, each breath sounding like it had to fight its way out. Dominic swallowed. "How old is he?" he asked. Elena turned away. "You don't get to know that." The baby coughed. A sharp, wet sound.
Elena stiffened.
Dominic stepped closer instinctively. Is he breathing like that all the time? Silence. That was answer enough. How long has he been sick?
Elena laughed bitterly.
Since he was born. Dominic's heart slammed against his ribs. "That's impossible," he said. "You said you couldn't." "I was wrong," she snapped. "The doctors were wrong. Or maybe God has a cruel sense of humor." She adjusted the baby in her arms. The child whimpered, then went eerily quiet. Too quiet. Dominic's instincts, honed by years of violence, screamed. Why did he stop crying? Elena's face drained of color. "He does that sometimes," she whispered. "When he gets too tired." Dominic reached out before thinking. Elena flinched like he'd raised a weapon. "Don't touch him." "Feel his skin," Dominic said urgently. "It's cold."
Elena hesitated.
Then she pressed her lips together and touched the baby's cheek. Her breath caught. Oh, God. The baby's skin was clammy. His lips slightly blue. Dominic's voice dropped to a command. "Why haven't you taken him to a hospital?" Elena's eyes filled with tears. "I did.
Once. Twice.
3 times. Each time they ran tests. Each time they told her nothing was wrong. Each time they sent her home with pamphlets and smiles and bills she couldn't pay. They said I was overreacting," she whispered. "They said some babies are just weak." Dominic felt something dangerous rise inside him.
Rage.
"Where's his father?" he asked quietly. Elena laughed again, broken this time. "He walked away before he ever knew the truth." Dominic's hands clenched. "Look at him," he said. "Really look at him."
She did.
Dark hair. Strong jawline. Eyes, when they opened briefly, were unmistakable. Her voice broke. "He's yours." The room tilted. Dominic Moretti had faced guns, knives, betrayals from men he'd raised like sons. Nothing hit like this. "How long have you known?" he asked. "All along." "Why didn't you tell me?" Elena's voice hardened. "Because the night you left, you told me the Mafia was your real family. And families like yours don't need sick babies." The baby suddenly gasped. A sharp intake of breath, then nothing.
Elena screamed.
Dominic moved faster than thought. He took the baby from her arms. "If I'm wrong," he said, already heading for the door, "he dies." Elena grabbed her coat, sobbing. "Where are you taking him?" Dominic's eyes burned with something ancient and lethal. To the one place on earth that won't turn us away. He opened the door. Snow rushed in. And somewhere in the city, the most feared Mafia boss was about to beg for help, for the son he never knew he had. Dominic breaks every Mafia rule he ever lived by, and the people he asks for help might use this baby to destroy him. Dominic kicked the hospital doors open with his shoulder. Help me. Every head in the emergency room turned. Nurses froze. Patients stared. Security reached for radios. Dominic didn't slow down. He laid the baby on the nearest gurney. My son isn't breathing right, he said, his voice shaking for the first time in decades. You help him.
Now.
A nurse rushed forward, checked the baby's vitals, then frowned. He's cold, she muttered. Oxygen sat. Another nurse leaned in, then stepped back. Sir, this child has been here before. Elena's knees almost gave out. Dominic's head snapped up. What do you mean before? The nurse hesitated. Multiple visits.
No diagnosis.
No insurance on file. A doctor approached, already annoyed. Mister? Moretti. The name landed heavy. The doctor's eyes flicked to security. What seems to be the issue? Dominic gestured to the baby. He's dying. The doctor listened to the baby's chest for less than 10 seconds. He's stable, he said dismissively. Low weight, probably reflux. You're panicking.
Elena screamed.
He stopped breathing. Security moved closer. Dominic felt the old urge rise, the one that solved problems permanently. But this time, violence would kill his son. You run tests, Dominic said through clenched teeth. Blood.
Tox.
Everything. The doctor sighed. We already did. There's nothing wrong. The baby suddenly convulsed. Alarm screamed. The doctor cursed. Get him to pediatrics, now. They rushed down the hall. Minutes passed. Then longer. Finally, a senior physician entered the room. Her face was pale. We found something, she said slowly. But I don't understand it. Dominic leaned forward. Say it.
There's poisoning, she said.
But not from food. Not from medicine. Elena whispered. Then from what? The doctor hesitated. From the environment. Silence. Dominic's blood ran cold. What environment? The doctor swallowed. Your home. Elena covered her mouth. Dominic thought of the apartment. The heater. The walls. The crib. And suddenly he remembered something. The landlord. The renovations. The strange smell.
His phone buzzed.
A message from one of his men.
Boss.
We found something about the building. You need to see this. Dominic stared at his son fighting for breath. Someone didn't just abandon this child. Someone tried to erase him. Dominic discovers the truth. The baby was never meant to survive Christmas. Dominic didn't wait for permission. He walked out of the hospital room, phone already pressed to his ear. Talk. His fixer's voice came through, tight. Boss, that building? It was condemned 8 years ago. Black mold. Carbon monoxide leaks. Asbestos in the walls. Dominic stopped walking. Then why was it rented?
A pause.
It wasn't supposed to be. Dominic's grip tightened. What do you mean? The unit Elena lives in? The fixer continued. It was flagged as uninhabitable. Records show it should have been sealed. Dominic closed his eyes. Someone unsealed it. And the landlord? Dominic asked. Dead, the fixer said. 2 years ago. Building got sold under a shell company. Dominic's jaw locked. Owned by who? Another pause. Longer this time. Your cousin.
Marco Moretti.
The name hit harder than the diagnosis.
Marco. Blood.
Family. The man who'd opposed Dominic's rise, who'd smiled at Christmas dinners while sharpening knives behind his back. Dominic ended the call. When he turned back toward the hospital room, Elena was standing in the doorway, eyes red, holding their son's tiny sock in her hand. She'd heard everything. This wasn't an accident, she said. Dominic didn't lie.
No.
Her voice cracked. He was supposed to die quietly, wasn't he? Dominic nodded once.
Slow.
Undetectable. No questions. Elena backed away like the truth burned. All those nights, she whispered, when he cried and I couldn't fix it, I thought I was failing him. Dominic stepped closer. You saved him. Her eyes snapped to his. They wouldn't help us, she said. Doctors dismissed us. Landlords ignored us. I had nowhere to go. Dominic's voice dropped, lethal calm. You had somewhere. I was just too blind to see you still needed me. A nurse interrupted. He's stable, she said quietly. For now.
Elena exhaled shakily.
Dominic didn't. Because for now meant time. And time was something his enemies had used against his child. Dominic stepped into the hallway and made one call. Find Marco. The response was instant. He's hosting Christmas Eve dinner tonight. Whole family. Toasts. Music. Church after. Dominic smiled for the first time in years. Perfect. Elena grabbed his arm. No, she said fiercely. Not violence. Not with him watching. Dominic looked back at the room where their son slept, wires taped to skin too small for pain. You're right, he said. Then colder. This ends clean. Hours later, Dominic walked into Marco's mansion carrying a gift. Just like Christmas Eve should be. Marco laughed when he saw him. Cousin. Long time. Dominic handed him the box. For your son, Dominic said.
Marco froze.
I don't have a. Dominic leaned in, voice soft. Neither did I. Until tonight. Marco opened the box. Inside were hospital reports, inspection photos, signed permits, and a photo of a baby in an oxygen mask. Marco's smile collapsed. You didn't just try to kill my son, Dominic said quietly. You tried to erase him. Marco backed up. Dominic, listen. Dominic raised one finger. I won't touch you tonight, he said. Christmas mercy.
Marco exhaled.
But tomorrow, Dominic continued, eyes dead calm. Everyone will know what you did. The church, the city, your partners, your children. Marco whispered, You'll destroy me. Dominic nodded. Yes. As Dominic turned to leave, Marco collapsed into a chair, shaking. And across the city, in a quiet hospital room, a baby breathed freely for the first time since birth. But the war wasn't over. Dominic learns the truth that changes everything. Marco wasn't the mastermind. The order came from someone closer. Someone Dominic trusted with his life. Dominic didn't sleep. He sat in the hospital chair all night, watching his son's chest rise and fall like it was the only thing anchoring him to the world. Machines beeped softly. Life counted in seconds. At 4:17 a.m., His phone vibrated. A single message from his fixer. Marco didn't act alone. Dominic didn't respond. He already knew. Because Marco had been too afraid. Too sloppy. Too desperate. Marco was a coward, not a planner. Dominic typed one word. Who? The reply came slower this time. The order came from inside your organization. Dominic's fingers went still. Name, he said quietly, though no one was there. Another pause. Longer. Then,
Salvatore Greco.
Dominic's blood ran cold. Salvatore wasn't just trusted. Salvatore had helped build the empire. He was godfather to Dominic's nephew. He knew every safe house, every shipment, every weakness. And worst of all, Salvatore had been the one who suggested Dominic let Elena go 7 years ago. Dominic stood slowly. The room felt smaller. Elena stirred in the chair beside the bed. What's wrong? She whispered. Dominic looked at her. At the woman he'd lost. At the life he'd abandoned. At the son he'd almost buried. I was betrayed, he said. Elena didn't ask who. She already understood something terrible had shifted. Dominic leaned down and kissed his son's forehead gently. I'll be back, he whispered. Elena caught his wrist. No, she said firmly. Not like this. Dominic met her eyes. This time, he said, I'm not going to disappear. She searched his face. Then come back alive. Dominic nodded once. Salvatore Greco was praying when Dominic arrived. Church candles flickered, casting shadows across marble saints with cracked faces. Salvatore looked up and smiled warmly.
Dominic, he said.
You look tired, my boy. Dominic sat across from him. My son almost died, Dominic said.
Salvatore sighed.
Tragedy is part of life. Dominic tilted his head. Funny, he said. You didn't say that when you paid to put him in a poison building.
The air changed.
Salvatore's smile didn't vanish, it froze. You misunderstand, Salvatore said calmly.
No, Dominique replied.
I finally understand. Salvatore folded his hands. You are getting soft, he said. A woman. A child. Weakness. Dominic leaned forward. So you tried to kill him? Salvatore's voice dropped. I tried to erase the leverage. Dominic stared at him. You didn't erase anything, he said. You made me remember who I am.
Salvatore chuckled softly.
You won't touch me in a church. Dominic stood. You're right. He turned to leave.
Salvatore relaxed.
Until Dominic stopped at the door. But this isn't the end, Dominic said. It's the confession. Outside, Dominic made a call. Release everything. By sunset, Salvatore's accounts were frozen. His allies turned silent. His protection vanished. And by nightfall, Salvatore Greco was found alone.
No guards.
No power. No prayers left. Back at the hospital, Elena watched Dominic return with blood on his cuff and truth in his eyes. Is it over? She asked. Dominic shook his head slowly. No, he said. But he's safe now. She looked at their son sleeping peacefully. For how long? She whispered. Dominic answered honestly. As long as I never forget why I came back. But as the camera pulls away, a doctor steps into the room, face pale. There's something you need to know, she says. Dominic turns. What? The doctor swallows. Your son's condition wasn't only environmental. Elena's heart stops. What do you mean? The doctor lowers her voice. He was given something. A drug. On purpose. And the person who authorized it is still free. The hospital room went silent. The doctor's words hung in the air like smoke. He was given something, she repeated. A controlled compound. Slow-acting. Designed to look like complications. Elena's knees nearly buckled. Dominic caught her before she fell. Who authorized it? Dominic asked. His voice was calm. Too calm. The doctor hesitated. That information isn't public, she said. But the order didn't come from the streets. Dominic's jaw tightened. It came from money, he said. The doctor nodded. And paperwork. 3 floors down, Dominic stood in the corridor staring at a security monitor. Hospital staff moved normally. Nurses laughed. Orderlies passed coffee. Someone among them had been paid. Elena joined him, arms wrapped around herself. This isn't your world, she whispered. This is mine. Dominic turned to her. What do you mean? She swallowed. Only 3 people knew about Noah's condition early enough to time the dosage. Dominic's eyes sharpened. Who? Elena took a breath. You. Me. And. She stopped. Dominic waited. My sister, Elena said. Dominic felt something inside him crack. No, he said immediately. She helped you leave me. She also hates your world, Elena replied quietly. And she works in pharmaceutical compliance. The realization hit like a blade. Paperwork. Authorization. Legal cover. Elena shook her head. I don't want to believe it. Dominic said nothing. Belief wasn't required. Only proof. They found her 2 hours later. Sofia Moreno sat in a cafe across from the hospital, calmly sipping tea like nothing in the world was burning. Dominic walked in alone. Sofia looked up and smiled. You finally came, she said. Dominic didn't sit. You poisoned my son. Sofia didn't flinch. I saved my sister. Dominic's eyes darkened. Explain. Sofia folded her hands. He was coming back, she said. I saw it. The power. The danger. I wasn't going to let you pull Elena and that child back into blood. So, you tried to kill him? No, she snapped. I tried to scare you away. Dominic leaned closer. You don't dose a child to scare a man. Sofia's voice cracked. I didn't know it would get that bad. Silence swallowed the table. Dominic straightened slowly. You ruined every chance at peace. Sofia stood too. You ruined her life first. For a moment, Dominic looked like he might end it right there. Instead, he turned and walked out. Sofia called after him. You won't kill me, she said. Because Elena would never forgive you. Dominic stopped. Without turning, he said quietly, You're right. That night, Dominic sat alone in his car. Engine off. Hands shaking for the first time in years. Elena's words echoed in his head. Choose him. Not the war. His phone rang. His lieutenant. We can make it disappear, the man said. Quietly. Dominic closed his eyes. 7 years ago, he would have said yes. Tonight. No, Dominic said. A pause. You're sure? Dominic looked up at the hospital window where his son slept. I'm done protecting monsters, he said. Even when they wear family faces. He hung up. The next morning, Elena watched as Dominic handed over documents to federal agents. Sophia was arrested quietly. No violence. No blood. Just truth. Elena turned to him, tears in her eyes. "You chose us," she whispered. Dominic nodded. "I chose the future." But as they stood there, a black SUV rolled past the hospital slowly. Too slowly. Dominic's instincts flared. A message buzzed on his phone. "Unknown number. You picked the wrong side." Dominic stared at the screen. Elena followed his gaze. "What is it?" Dominic exhaled. "The war didn't end," he said. "It just changed players. And somewhere far away, someone powerful had just marked Noah as leverage." Again, the message didn't disappear. Dominic stared at his phone long after the screen dimmed. Elena watched his face change, not into rage, not into fear, but into something worse. Recognition. "You know who that is," she said quietly. Dominic didn't answer right away, because saying it out loud would make it real. Finally he spoke. "There are men," he said slowly, "who don't need territory because they own systems." Elena's stomach dropped. "Government," she whispered. Dominic shook his head. Worse. That night, Dominic moved Elena and Noah.
No goodbyes. No explanations.
Just a quiet transfer to a private wing of a different hospital under a different name. Elena hated it. "This is exactly what I didn't want," she said as Dominic checked security locks himself. "Running. Hiding. This is your world again." Dominic didn't look at her. "No," he said. "This is me keeping my son alive." Elena went silent, because she knew that tone. The one Dominic used when compromise was already dead. At 2:14 a.m., Dominic's burner phone rang. He answered without speaking. A man's voice came through smooth and amused. "You disappointed me, Dominic." Dominic leaned against the wall. "You poisoned a child," Dominic said. "That makes us even." The man chuckled. "I didn't poison him. I approved a delay." Elena felt her blood turn cold. "You see," the voice continued, "your mistake was thinking this was personal. It's administrative." Dominic closed his eyes. "What do you want?" A pause. Then, "You." The man explained it simply. Too simply. Dominic had built something once. A system that moved money quietly. Cleaned it. Protected people like Elena from consequences they didn't even know existed. Dominic walked away. That system didn't. "You shut it down," the voice said. "And now powerful people are exposed." Elena grabbed Dominic's arm. "Don't," she mouthed. The voice continued. "You return. You rebuild. You keep it clean. And your son lives." Dominic's jaw clenched. "And if I say no?" Another pause. Then Noah's treatment stops being delayed and starts being denied. Silence swallowed the room. Elena whispered, "Hang up." Dominic didn't. "You won't touch him," Dominic said. "I turned in names. You move, you burn." The voice laughed softly. "You gave them criminals," he said. "I am infrastructure." The line went dead. Elena's legs gave out. Dominic caught her again. "This ends now," she said, shaking. "You don't get to choose anymore. We leave. We disappear. I don't care if we live in a cave." Dominic stared at the floor. There's nowhere to disappear from a system like this. Elena grabbed his face. Then we fight it together. Dominic looked up at her, and for the first time, fear crossed his face. Not fear of death. Fear of becoming the man he promised he'd never be again. At dawn, Noah stirred. Dominic stood at the window watching the city wake up. He whispered to himself, "I won't trade his life for my soul." Elena stepped beside him. "We'll find another way." Dominic nodded slowly.
But his phone buzzed again.
A photo. Noah's medical chart. Stamped denied. Below it, one sentence. Last chance. Midnight. Elena covered her mouth. Dominic closed his eyes. Because now the impossible choice was real. Backhand index pointing right, return to the shadows and save his son. Backhand index pointing right, or refuse, and gamble Noah's life on a system already bought. Dominic opened his eyes. "They think I'll choose like the old me," he said. Elena whispered, "Won't you?" Dominic turned to her. His voice was steady.
"No," he said.
"I'll choose worse." Midnight was 6 hours away. Dominic didn't move, didn't shout, didn't panic. He picked up his phone and made one call. Not to a soldier, not to a fixer, to a woman no one in the underworld said out loud. "Ilera," Dominic said when the line connected. "I'm cashing in the last favor." A pause. Then a calm voice replied, "You swore you'd never use it." "I know," Dominic said. "But they touched my son." Silence. Then, "Send everything," Ilera said. "Every file. Every name."
"No edits."
Elena watched him. "You're not going back," she said slowly. "You're burning the bridge." Dominic nodded. "I'm burning the city." By dawn, something strange happened. Hospitals across 3 states experienced system audits. Payment authorizations froze. Private approval stalled. Phones rang off the hook. Men who had never feared guns suddenly feared paperwork. Elena stared at the news alerts. "What did you do?" Dominic answered quietly. "I built a kill switch years ago," he said, "for men who thought they were untouchable." At 10:17 a.m., Noah's monitor beeped sharply. Elena rushed to his side. A nurse entered, pale. "There's a problem," she said. "The system is reversing decisions." Dominic stepped forward. "Say it again." "The denial was voided," the nurse said. Every restriction was overridden. Elena grabbed Dominic's arm. "He's going to be okay?" The nurse nodded. "Yes." Dominic exhaled. For exactly 1 second. Then his phone buzzed again. A call. Blocked number. He answered. The voice was different now. Not amused. Not confident. "You started something," the man said. Dominic leaned against the wall. "I finished it." "You exposed us," the voice snapped. "Do you know what you've done?" Dominic's tone was ice. "I made you visible." The man's voice lowered. "You think this ends clean?" Dominic looked at Noah, then at Elena, then back to the phone. "No," Dominic said, "but it ends honest." The line went dead. That afternoon, something unprecedented happened. A closed-door congressional hearing was leaked. Names spilled. Donors panicked. Foundations collapsed. Elena watched Dominic from across the room. "You just declared war on people who don't lose," she said. Dominic met her gaze. "They already lost," he said. "They just don't know it yet." But peace never comes without payment. At sunset, Dominic's lieutenant appeared at the door, face pale. They're moving, he said. Not legally. Dominic stiffened. Where? The man swallowed. Here. Before Elena could speak, the power went out. Monitors switched to backup. Noah stirred, confused. Dominic stepped forward instinctively. Elena, he said calmly. Take Noah. Bathroom. Now. Footsteps echoed in the hall. Heavy. Fast. Dominic rolled his shoulders. Not in anger. In acceptance. Elena whispered, You said no violence. Dominic met her eyes. I said I wouldn't choose it, he replied. That doesn't mean I won't finish it. The door at the end of the corridor exploded inward. Men flooded the hall. Dominic moved. The first shot shattered the hallway mirror. Glass exploded outward like ice. Elena screamed, not loud, not long, but Dominic heard it anyway. He moved without thinking. Not toward the attackers. Toward Noah. Dominic grabbed the force stand with one hand and shoved it sideways, flipping the hospital bed just enough to shield the child's body. He dropped to his knees, back turned, arms wide, his body becoming a wall. Bullets slammed into metal. One tore through his shoulder. Another ripped past his ribs. Pain flared white-hot. But Dominic didn't fall. He stayed there. Stayed between. The men hesitated. They hadn't expected this. Not the boss of bosses bleeding in a hospital hallway. Not shielding a child. Their leader barked, Finish it. Dominic turned his head just enough to look at them.
His voice was calm.
You fire again, he said, blood dripping onto the tile. And everything you love dies with me. The words landed heavy. Because every man there knew something they didn't. Dominic didn't threaten. He delivered. Sirens wailed outside. Too many. Too fast. The attackers froze. One whispered, We've been burned. Another cursed. They ran. Footsteps faded. Silence slammed into the hallway. Dominic collapsed. Elena screamed his name and caught him before his head hit the floor. Blood soaked her hands. Stay with me, she begged. You promised. Dominic coughed, a weak laugh escaping his lips. I didn't promise, he whispered. I showed you. Doctors flooded in. Gurneys. Orders.
Lights.
As Dominic was rushed away, his hand tightened weakly around Elena's wrist. He's okay? Dominic murmured. Elena nodded through tears.
He's alive, she said.
You saved him. Dominic closed his eyes. Good, he breathed. 3 hours later, surgery doors opened. A doctor approached Elena. He'll live, the doctor said. But he won't be the same.
Elena swallowed.
What does that mean? The doctor hesitated. Publicly exposed. Legally compromised. His old life is over.
Elena nodded. Good.
When Dominic woke, it was daylight. Snow drifted past the window. Christmas Eve. Elena sat beside the bed, eyes red but steady. You scared me, she said. Dominic tried to smile. Still practicing. She took his hand. They're done, she said. The men who ordered it. Arrested. Indicted. Running. Dominic exhaled slowly. And Noah? Elena smiled through tears. He's asking when you're coming home. Dominic froze. Home.
Elena leaned closer.
You stood in front of bullets for him, she said softly. You don't get to leave anymore. A week later, the city whispered, the Mafia boss was gone. Some said he fled. Some said he died. They were all wrong. Dominic lived quietly now.
No guards.
No empire. Just mornings making pancakes too thick, learning how to tie shoes, and letting a little boy sit on his chest like it was a throne. One night, Noah asked, "Are you still scary?" Dominic smiled. "Only when I have to be." Noah nodded.
Good.
"I like you better like this." On Christmas morning, Elena watched them from the doorway. The man she once loved. The child he almost lost. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You could have ruled forever. Elena deleted it. She looked at Dominic.
He looked back.
And for the first time in 7 years, there was nothing chasing them anymore. End of story. Do you believe a man can truly change when love, not power, becomes the thing he protects? Tell me in the comments. If this story held you till the end, subscribe now, because the next one will be even more dangerous, emotional, and unforgettable.